Do you struggle with establishing your pricing or maybe communicating your price to customers, right, and justifying it? What if there was a better way, a way that was logical based on the actual amount of time that you spent with them and the actual amount of product that you used on them? I'm really excited for you to listen to today's episode where I sit down with a salon owner to go through the nuts and bolts of how they completely redesigned their pricing strategy, right, to go towards a time and product model and how it completely transformed their business. Welcome to the Salon Scoop, a podcast by Salon S.O.S. I'm your host, Scott Moon, the founder of Salon S.O.S., and I'm obsessed with helping salon professionals live their best life. In this show, we shop talk all things salon to bring you real-life stories, debates, entertainment, and inspiration to help you find happiness and success in this beautiful industry. If you work in the salon industry in any capacity, this podcast is open to you. So set down your scissors or rinse out that toner and let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Salon Scoop. Today, we are going to continue our journey into the world of pricing in the salon industry. It's such a vast topic, and there's so many different ideas, strategies, implementations out there that exist in the industry. And we want to explore several of them and give you some insights, pros and cons. On today's episode, we're going to get the scoop on parts and labor pricing and kind of what goes into that entire background. With me today to sort of break down a lot of this is an expert in the field, former L'Oreal educator and salon owner, Christina Yun from Dollhouse Salon. Christina, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here with us today. Excited to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
I would love to start by you kind of just maybe sharing with our audience a little bit of your background before we delve into the topic here, just so they can kind of understand, how you got into the industry, how long you've been in the industry, what your sort of role and journey has been like, and where things are at today with your salon company.
Well, I've been really fortunate. I knew at a very early age that I wanted to do hair, and I took it in high school. So I've been doing it for about 28 years. And I did my apprenticeship in a great salon. And from there, worked at two other salons and then opened our salon about 10 years ago. So, yeah. And then and then also educated with L'Oreal for about 15 years and got so many great mentors through that whole experience.
I'm sure education world can be quite fulfilling. Give us a quick overview of your salon today in terms of like the services offered and how big is the team?
So we have our salon's a little unique. We have a salon and barbershop in one space. So we have about 7 barbers and about 6 stylists. And our hiring process is a little different too. We just do apprenticeships and then hire them from a very early start in their career. And yeah, I think that's about it.
So you put your education experience to work by helping to sort of like train and bring up the next generation of barbers and stylists in your company.
Yes.
Amazing. Are you a sole owner, like a sole owner, or do you have any partners?
We have one of the barbers is a partner, and we're trying to grow that part of it, and we're just starting to learn all that stuff too. So always learning.
Always learning. It's a constant journey in our industry. That's for sure. If we're not learning, then we're not growing. So we gotta stick to it. All right, let's talk a little bit about pricing. I'm curious. I mean, from your experience in the industry and time, sort of educating outside as well. You've obviously had lots of interactions with many different salon professionals, other salon owners. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges or frustrations that salon professionals have with pricing in general? Like, what keeps people awake at night when it comes to pricing, in your opinion?
I think one of the big things is like they don't know when to raise their prices. They don't know where to gauge where their pricing should start. They don't know kind of like what service takes what time. They and so they just kind of pick numbers from thin air and not realizing what what they want per hour for payment for themselves.
Well, they often don't even think about it on a like per hour basis, right? They probably look at, okay, well, what are other salons charging for, a hair color in this area? And like, maybe I should charge the same thing. Or you look at somebody else and say, okay, well, they're charging this, but I've been working in industry, 5 years more, so I therefore should charge more because I'm more experienced. And it's very subjective, right?
Totally. They're just like, I feel like a lot of people are really lost and they just don't know. And they're trying to look at different market leading salons and just kind of calling around and saying, okay, well, they could charge this for a haircut. Not knowing the insides of like, maybe they have different pricing for different people and like they don't understand what the experience levels are. So they're just like picking a number from thin air.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk when you first opened your salon company like 10 years ago, how did you establish the prices for the various services at that point? Do you
Well,
remember?
like I just remember what I used to charge, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll just charge a little bit more because now I got like a rent to pay. And
Which
I
is
didn't really know about like how to run a business. So I was like, okay, I'll just do this because that's what I used to do, not understanding what the profit loss statements look like and what the cost of doing that service was.
Yeah. And way too many people, do the exact same thing, right? It's just kind of taking it out of thin air a little bit. So obviously now you have some experience, you've had some education, some training about different systems, understanding of the finances behind owning and running a business, and different levels of different stylists. And you have barbers, you've got young people. Obviously, it sounds like that come into your company as a apprentice or sort of associate level. I know that you made a change completely to your pricing strategy, and we want to get into that. When did that happen in your salon company, where you decided, like I need to kind of change the whole pricing structure here as a strategy? When did that happen?
Well, it was something that I had thought about for a while, but I didn't really have the time to do the work. And then when we were shut down over COVID, I just kind of hunkered down for those 6 weeks and kind of did the math behind what I needed to do to figure out what our pricing should look like. And then changed everything over.
And what did you come up with? Now, some people are cringing in different ways. When you just said shut down for 6 weeks, there's some people that are listening. They're probably like, "You were shut down for 6 weeks? That's crazy. We were only shut down for 2 weeks." Other people are like, "You were only shut down for 6 weeks. We were shut down for a whole year." So, anyways, but we're moving past that. We're moving past that. We want to find out what you came up with during that whole reset in terms of like what was your new pricing strategy? Like, what came from it?
Well, at first, I took the averages of each level of each of the stylists that we had at each level. And then I kind of reverse engineered what it would look like if it was an hourly rate. And it's honestly, it's still a work in progress because we're still looking at average service tickets and what that looks like and what each stylist and barber want to make per hour and what they want their hourly rate to be. And we just kind of broke that down and then divided those into different levels. So each level has like an hourly rate that they are to charge so they can take home. And it's a better understanding of what their take home is going to be too. So it for in our salon company, it ranges from, oh my goodness, why don't I know this number? It goes from about um $67 an hour to $157 an hour.
Okay. As you kind of grow within the company, essentially.
Correct. Yeah.
So what made you decide that you wanted to go towards an hourly pricing model in the first place?
Well, for us, it was easier to give quotes to clients. And, like, when they come in for a big corrective service, it's like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to do this service and then this service and do this kind of application," and then it becomes this, like, math problem that has no rhyme or reason. Whereas, like, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to spend the whole day with you, so this is my hourly rate. We're gonna be spending about 8 hours, so it's like, this is what it's gonna cost for that time, and then this is about the estimate of the products that I'm gonna use on you. And then we go into this is, this includes your we do a charge of the hair color that's used and the bleach that's going to be used and any kind of treatments that are going to be used. And I think for the client, it has more transparency
Hmm.
and a little bit more honesty as far as like, okay, well, I'm going to do this application, it's going to cost this. And then I'm going to do this application, it's going to cost this. And as hairdressers, we also charge with our hearts and we end up undercharging. So this is just a little bit more math and fact-based. It's gonna cost this much. I've quoted you for 8 hours, and then this is the color cost may go up and down, so I'm gonna give you about $100 buffer. And it's just easier for them to be like, "Okay."
Now, how do you deal with a let's call it a potential client who calls the salon saying, "Hey, I'd like to find out, how much it costs to get my hair color done." Like, how does the person who's answering the phone kind of give a proper quote to someone who's calling in?
Well, we start with asking if they're going lighter or darker. And if it's going lighter, then it's, "Okay, can we do a virtual consultation, or are you able to come in?" And then that stylist will give them a quote over the phone or over that conversation. Sorry, I should
Understood. Yeah. And if they're going darker?
If they're going darker, then, we kinda give them a range, but we really do like to, like, ask them about the thickness of hair and things like that, and then we give them a range, but that range is so broad that it's better for them to come in if they want more of an accurate quote.
Understood. But sometimes people are just like calling around to get a price so they have a bit of a sense of, is this within my range or not? Can I assume that regardless of whether I'm getting a cut done or a color done, it's just you're only charging based on time, whether you're cutting or whether you are styling or whether you are coloring, it's going to be the same hourly rate.
Correct.
Perfect. So you're just going to estimate how much time it's going to take to conduct the service and then charge accordingly.
Yeah.
Pretty
And,
straightforward.
like, yeah, and the thing is, like, when we're newer, we definitely do take longer. So, our haircuts are based off of a 30-minute short haircut or a 45-minute longer haircut or an hour-long, extra long haircut. Like, it's not, just because you're new and you've got normal length of hair and it should take about 45 minutes, but that person takes an hour and a half, we're still charging the 45-minute rate.
Oh, that's actually a very good clarification because yeah, as a consumer, you wouldn't want to be charged because someone just is taking their sweet time and doing a 3 hour cut just so that they can make more money off of it. There are some standards in place where you kind of have like three buckets, more based on the length of hair, probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's I'm sure reassuring
Yeah.
for customers. uh, fair enough. So you were in the basement for 6 weeks, coming up and establishing this new pricing strategy and whatnot, and you came back. Everybody was happy because there's like a back to work, and you introduced this to your team, oh, by the way, team, you know what, there's going to be a new pricing model. I would love to find out what was the reaction from your staff when you told them that all of a sudden the whole pricing, you know, model and discussion was changing.
They were a little bit taken aback for sure, like, but when I explained to them, for those people who you don't use that much color for, why are we charging them an extra surcharge because it's built in that we use 60 grams of color? Why not just have them pay for the service and then the color that's used? And they were totally that totally made sense for them. It was more the back end stuff on how they were gonna get paid. Because now their services are a little less, their product charge is a little bit more, like, the products that they're charging for is a little bit more, so they were just like, "Okay, are we losing money? Are we making more money?" Like
Yeah, that's really all I care about here. So, but how did you explain that? Because for listeners out there who are maybe considering making a change, how do I, as a salon owner, properly communicate this to my staff so that I get buy-in and so that they understand that this is also going to be beneficial for them?
Then, the service charge was or there was no service charge, so actually they were getting better rates on their commission. And then for the way we pay on retail is based on every week they have to hit a quota, and then they get paid up from 10 to 20%. And for them, I was like, this is actually going to boost up your retail, and you're going to hit your 20% probably 2 out of the 4 weeks, if not 4 out of the 4 weeks. So you're actually going to get paid more on retail that the client takes home to maintain their hair, but also like the color that they're gonna use too. So I felt like it was a win-win. Some of them didn't feel the win-win until they got their first paycheck.
Yeah, you gotta see it. You gotta see it to believe it,
Yeah.
which makes sense. So explain to our listeners how this new pricing model. You're saying that you expected it to help you increase retail sales. What was the correlation there?
So the retail, like, we mark up our color just like we would our retail. So we actually make profit on the color that we use on the client's head so that we can bring in more profits into the salon so that
Yeah.
the salon can run more efficiently and we can do more for our team.
Okay, so the stylist is making a commission on the sale of the color tube, like the color that's being used.
Yes,
Okay, so when you're talking about retail, it's not just about shampoos and conditioners and styling products.
it's actually the hair color itself. So we mark up the hair color just like we would a bottle of shampoo, conditioner, styling aid, and
Yeah,
then they get paid just like they would for the commission as for that shampoo conditioner as well, and
nice.
for the color.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Okay, let's look at some specific numbers, if possible, as specific as you can, to just get a sense of, in the past, let's say a basic, root touch up color service, was costing X for the consumer. Now, with your new pricing model of charging, by the hour and charging them for the product used, like, how much of the final price was there an impact for the consumer at the end of the day? Were they all of a sudden paying about the same as before, more, less? How did that shake out?
Honestly, it was about the same. It might have been like just like we increase prices every year, that's about the amount of increase that they would see. Um, but for us, like, hair color itself, that price increases for us, but we always eat that cost at the end when we were doing our other model. This way, as hair color prices go up, we don't really take a hit any longer because we're charging for the color that is being used on the head. For some people, like my finer hair clients, their costs actually went down because I'm not using a full tube of color on their hair. I might be using a third of tube of a color because everything, all that stuff is also being tracked as well, right? So it's like, okay, last time I used this and I overmixed. So, okay, then I'm just going to use this. So
Excellent.
for the client, it actually is better for them cost wise.
Because it's more precise, I guess, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
based on the actual service that I'm getting. Because if I go in for a root touch up and somebody else goes in for a root touch up, let's say under normal pricing models, we're both getting charged the exact same, but maybe my hair is uh, more fine and it's actually like easier, faster, and you don't need to use as much product. So now I would actually be paying less than somebody who has like thick, full hair that needs like more product and maybe more time for application, correct?
correct. And like those people with those thick fine, those are not thick fine. Those people with like a ton of hair that normally takes you like double the amount of color. We never charged for it because we felt bad. Well, now it's just on there and it's just easier because this is what I used on you and that's it. And they understand that. It's like just like at a mechanic shop, you're paying for the labor of the mechanic that's working on your car, and then you're paying for the air filter. You're paying for the oil that's used to change your oil. So it's just easier to explain. They see it on the bill. It makes way more sense for them.
Yeah, because it is very much used in other industries for sure, and it's a very logical way for people to break it down. So let's look at a specific example because I'm curious to know like how you're actually measuring the amount of color usage and charging for a third of a tube or half a tube or two tubes or whatever the case may be. And then there's like developer treatment you talked about. How are you actually measuring all this and coming up with a price for it? Because that sounds like it could be complicated and confusing for the staff.
Well, we use a system. It's called Vish, and actually our clients, it's open, our back bar is open so they see it and they see how we measure and it's all tracked on there. So everything is inputted on the back end and then everything is tracked through there and it works with our software system as well. Everything kind of integrates so all the notes are put in so I don't have to like track the color. I don't have to be like, oh, I use this color. I use 10N with 20 volume and I mixed it 1:1. Like that's all tracked. So which is kind of nice. So it's more precise. And then if I'm not able to do Judy's hair, then another one of our team members can come in and do the exact same thing. And then if I over mixed last time, and it said, and then it just says remix, it will actually calculate it. So it's like, okay, I overmixed. I used 60 grams last time. This time the system is telling me I only need to use 40. And it will tell the other team member exactly what to do. And it's amazing.
And so that system is essentially weighing the product and
Yeah,
therefore spitting out a price. But you input like how much the price is per ounce or per gram or whatever it is, and then it just is a weighing system, and then it tells you whoop, the cost of what you just used is $9.75.
exactly. And the thing is, on the back end, you can set up if you want to do 100% markup, or if you want to do a 150% markup, or if you want to do a 30% markup. That's all based on you.
Yeah, you can sort of determine that. That's great. So, how long does it take any extra time to kind of conduct a service and get this calculation done?
No, it takes zero time. The only time it took was at the very beginning, setting everything up, and it takes a little bit more time on when the client is coming in for their first time service because I had to input all the color. But when I'm remixing, it's just like bam, it's right there.
Nice. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual guests. So we talked already about the staff and their reaction when you kind of had this new pricing model being introduced. Let's talk about the actual clients themselves when you had this like new pricing. Because if I've been a long time customer, I've been coming in, getting my root touch up every 4 weeks, whatever the case may be. And now I show up and there's a new pricing. How did you communicate this to the clients, and what was their reaction?
Most of them, there's always going to be the one person that isn't too happy because not everyone likes change. But most of them were pretty good. We had a team meeting. We really talked about like, okay, we really need to explain to them that it's just like we had mentioned before, like a mechanic shop or anything else, that you're just getting the time. You're just paying me for the time that it's taking me to do your hair. And then you're paying for the stuff, the product and the color, just the color that is used on your hair, whether it be treatments, hair color, bleach, anything like that, or like a perm or, like a texture service of some kind. And once I explained everything to them, so it's more transparent. I will say, like, if someone's got really fine hair and I know that the price is going to be less, I will tell them, you will actually notice that your price is a little bit less because you're only paying for the color that's used on your head. And for the client that has really thick hair, I kind of say to them that it was like, everything was incorporated before, but now you're just paying for the color that is being used. So before you were actually getting a deal.
Yeah,
So I do explain it to them beforehand so they don't get that sticker shock at the end of the service.
absolutely, because that's always, probably one of the biggest frustrations that salon clients have is when pricing is not explained properly and they do get sticker shock at the end of their visit, and they walk away with a bit of a bad taste in their mouth, right? So that's always something that we're trying to avoid in all circumstances. So anytime that a pricing change is made, it's important to have transparency, with your guests around it, so that nobody is, shocked or surprised, and have a good understanding of what's happening.
Correct. Yeah. And then most of the time, I think I may have had one person that was kind of upset with me. So I was like, you know what, we'll just keep your pricing the same this time, but just so you know, moving forward, this is what it's going to look like.
Yeah, and that's always the best way to deal with, if you're just taking even just like regular price increase, an annual price increase. Some people come in and they're like, oh, and now it's like $5 more. They're like, whoa, what happened? Like, I didn't realize this was going to happen. And you say, you know what, you can say, for today, we'll honor the old price, but just so that the next time you visit, the price will be da 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 da, and you can explain why price increases are happening. It's it's quite common for many businesses to take price increases from time to time for various reasons. So as long as you're open and explain it, you have a much better chance of getting buy-in from your customers.
Totally.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, because you've experienced, your old, let's say, pricing model for maybe the first sort of 5-6 years of existence, and now you've been in this new sort of parts and labor pricing model for the last maybe four-ish years, 3-4 years. What would you say were some of the advantages of the old traditional model that you miss today?
I don't know if I miss anything. Um, if anything, it may be just the simplicity of it. Yeah. No, I'm just so used to this new pricing model that I can't imagine me doing hair in any other way. I know that sounds a little bit, um, but yeah, I truly do believe that the transparency behind it has made me and our company look more professional.
Okay, great. That's one thing. Let's talk about some other advantages that you see from this new pricing model or pricing strategy that you've implemented. More professional is one. You talked about transparency. Any other sort of like key advantages that come to mind that you feel like are important for other salon owners to be considering?
I believe that even our team has a better understanding and they can quote even better. For the new ones, it's really hard because they don't know how long things are going to take them. And, when I think this particular service would take me this amount of time, so that's what I'm going to quote. For them, it may take double the amount of time. But that's just like, I feel like that is something that is an experience that they will come to in time. Like they will understand their timing, the more they do it. But for me, as you know, someone that's been in the industry for a while and some of our senior team members, it's just a lot easier for them to be like, okay, this is going to take me this amount of time. So this is what I'm going to charge. This is what I'm going to quote, especially for like bigger services. The root touch ups, those are easy. I love those. Like every 30 minutes, I got someone in my chair. Like it's just so easy. But it's those big balayage services. It's the transitioning from dark to light, even from going from light to dark, because you've got multiple services that you have to do within that to make sure that they have the longevity. And the thing is, like, when before I was never sure of how much product I was going to use and how much extra product I would need, um, because it was just so like, oh, I don't know. But now it's like, okay, I know you've got this amount of hair. It's going to cost about $50 for your hair color that I'm going to use on you, and we're going to have to do a couple services, so it's going to take me about 3 hours. I can like quote you. This is what it's going to cost, and I just feel a little bit more confident in that.
I love that. Here's a question for consideration. With this new model where you're charging for the product used, is it possible that a stylist could be more careless now with the amount of product and be like, I can use extra product because we're charging it to the customer anyways, and we're even making a little bit of profit, on that product. So you know what, I'll just mix a little bit extra here in my bowl and have more than I need.
Oh yeah, like for sure, you can that can totally happen. But with our system, you have to reweigh the bowl after you've used it. So the next time, it will tell you exactly what to mix. And if there, and then and there's also reports on my end, on the back end, where I can see how much wastage is used. So then that's a conversation that me and that stylist will have. Like, I noticed that there is a lot of like wastage that's happening. We want to minimize that because at the end of the day, we still, I still do look out for our consumers because I don't want to be kind of playing that game. I would rather be honest, consistent, and then like for me, like that's it's kind of bad karma.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You have to have honor and integrity in in the business world. Have you noticed any impact on the bottom line of your business over the last few years after changing to this model? Was it something you could sort of measure and say, you know what, like this actually has increased the profit margin of our salon?
Honestly, we haven't been able to measure that, just because I felt like the first year after COVID, it was everything, all our numbers have been skewed, and it probably wasn't until this last year that we've really had a really good idea of what our projections will be for the following year.
Oh, that totally makes sense. And my last question I'm curious about is, are there many other salons in your area that are utilizing a similar type of pricing model, or are you more unique? And do you ever position this as like a positive differentiating factor for your salon versus others?
Honestly, I don't know. My friends that own salons, I know they use the old traditional method. And so I don't really know outside of that who has uses this kind of model. I know that there's a couple salons in Saskatchewan that do this model and a couple salons up north that I know of, but I don't know anybody in our demographic and in our area that do this model.
Interesting. And when you're recruiting new, you said apprentices, whatever, coming into your business, is this something that you talk to them about in the hiring process?
Yes.
And how do they see it? Is it like completely foreign to them? They're like, whoa, what is this? So we didn't learn this in school.
Um, they most of them are like, okay, but I don't know if it's because I'm the boss and they just say okay just to make it seem like they understand.
Could
But
be.
I think in schools they do weigh all their products. They might just use like a regular scale, whereas our scale is connected to our iPad so that everything is monitored and also like data is collected from that. So I honestly don't know. They seem to just say okay and then move along, and I show them how to use the scale because it's a little different from your traditional scale.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you've heard it here, Christina. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and insights from this. I think parts and labor is a terminology that's been used a lot more in our industry over the last few years, and I believe that a lot of salon owners and even independent stylists who are kind of working and establishing their own pricing, it's stuff that they're starting to consider, like how should I be establishing my pricing and what are the different options available, what are the advantages and disadvantages. So I think you've really helped us shed some light today on the discussion around parts and labor. Wanted to thank you very much for all that information and for taking the time to share with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and hopefully you did pick up something out there, listeners, that kind of made you think about pricing in a different way. It's always been a topic that's a little bit tricky, let's say, in our industry, and does bring about some debates. It does bring about some confusion, and we're trying to bring to light some techniques and some ways to go about it that are going to help clarify your world, make you make smarter pricing decisions that are based on tangible logic that consumers are actually going to better understand and appreciate, and enable you to have a stronger business going forward ultimately. So hope you learned something from this episode. If you have any questions and want to reach out, you can obviously reach out to us on social media at salon.s.o.s. Christina, if someone wanted to reach out to you with some specific questions, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you?
Our Instagram is dollhouseyeg.
There you go, Dollhouse YEG. You can reach out to Christina if you've got follow-up questions. All right, everybody, thanks so much for listening. Have yourselves a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Salon Scoop podcast. This show is produced by Salon S.O.S, a digital marketing agency by industry professionals for industry professionals. If you want simple and affordable solutions for any of your salon marketing needs, such as websites, client loyalty, Google search rankings, social media, or more, come visit us at salonsos.ca or on Instagram at salon.s.o.s. If you want to hear more episodes like this and help us continue to bring the industry great content, it would mean so much to us if you would support us in one of the following ways. Either share this episode with one other industry professional, and rate the show on Spotify, or write us a quick review on Apple Music. We want to hear your feedback. If you have follow-up questions or ideas for future episodes, please reach out. DM us on Instagram at salonus.s.o.s or hit us up on our website again at salonsos.ca. Again, thanks so much for listening. Now go get your hustle on, keep smiling, and we'll catch you